Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast, one-stop shop for everyone feeling stuck in their career and who are looking to identify, change, and succeed at their new fulfilling work. I'm your host, Vilma Oseita. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 8, Connecting the Dots. Hope your week was good. Hope you feel loved. Hope you feel at peace. And also hope that you're ready for this week's episode because I cannot contain myself. I am so excited to be recording this. So I really need to kind of calm myself down. Otherwise, I'll be speaking really quickly and really loud. And I want you to be able to at least somewhat enjoy this episode without me screaming into your ear. This is a special one for me because this is where the last 3 episodes come together and where you finally get to see the fruit of your labor. Also hope that you are not annoyed with me. I know I keep on redirecting you to previous episodes and keep on reminding you to complete the short exercises I share with you. And that's because when I was outlining the podcast content, I intended on purpose for the first 10 or so episodes to lay the foundational work of self-audit, of self-study, and based on this wealth of knowledge about yourself, you can then set out and launch into the next, much more fun, much more experimental phase of career change, which is testing out and then sketching your personal transition plan. I know some of you may actually enjoy going through these exercises, and I've heard from you and you told me that you do. Some of you perhaps not so much. Maybe you look at it as a little bit of homework. I know a lot of people have really negative associations with homework, but we're adults and we can do hard things, even if it involves a few self-inquiry exercises. You're doing it and your future self will thank you for this. If, however, you still find yourself a little lazy at times, or you may be thinking, yes, I have to do this, but you keep on procrastinating, I'd like to suggest using one of my favorite coaching concepts that could energize you to do the work, and that is called connecting to your future self. By the way, a bit random, but not sure if you guys have heard about the block universe theory. It essentially says that the past, the present, and the future exist simultaneously, and it claims that the time does not actually flow like a river, but rather that everything is ever present. So don't ask me regarding the validity of this theory, but I find it absolutely fascinating, and it makes the concept that I'm just about to share even more so useful. So here it goes. What I'd like you to do is fast forward your life to a year. So it's February 2021 when this episode comes out. So fast forward your life to February 2022 and imagine what your life would look like if you didn't change anything about your life. So you were still in the same career, you were living in the same place, you were hanging out with the exact same people or not hanging out with people at all in the same way. You had the exact same, to a T, routines. You ate the same food. You were physically active or not active, just as you are today. You were in a relationship with the same person. And imagine all of your habits, all of your decision-making processes being frozen in time, as it is today, and you were just not allowed to make any changes. Some evil witch bespelled you, and you were not allowed to change anything about your life. Now, I want you to ask yourself, when you imagine yourself in a year's time in the exact same spot, how do you feel about your life? Would thinking of your life being exactly the same in a year make you feel satisfied and excited? Would it feel like a contraction? Would it scare you? Would it bring you peace? Perhaps some aspects, like being in the same relationship, if you're happy with the person you call your partner right now, may bring you a sense of peace and security. And perhaps, your eating and working out habits may make you think, man, I could do a little better. Yet the one aspect I want you to zoom in on is how you feel if you were in the same career. And I mean the same position, the same salary, the same colleagues, same working hours, same activities. How does that make you feel? Because, if we get stuck in analysis, in that silent suffer, if we get stuck in hoping that things may change without taking intentional action, chances are that in February 2022, you will be in a similar spot. Very eerily similar spot. Now I want you to fast forward your life to 2 years, 5 years, under the same conditions. No change has happened to your life. How would you feel about your career path then? How would you feel about your life? Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I first completed this cute little innocent looking envisioning exercise years ago, when I was living far from happy life, it literally left me in a sense of panic, to the point where I think I was even nearly hyperventilating. I was like, I cannot let this happen. It felt so loud and so clear, the messaging that I received, that I just cannot continue down the same career path. The feeling was so intense, it would almost jolt me awake out of any bit of sense of laziness I had, any bit of procrastination, any smart ass reasoning my brain had as to why I should not do the exercise now and not read that book now. Literally just thinking of me in the exact same spot in a year or 2 years, it would inspire me to go back to taking actions, doing these exercises, reading those books, and it would bring me closer to my path of fulfillment. You can, of course, connect to your why from a different space, from a more loving, inspired state, and you may then get reminded as to why you're doing this work. However, that does not always work. Sometimes we all need a little bit of good old kick in the butt, like a waking call to put things into perspective and to give us energy to do the hard things. Now, as little by little, these hard things we choose to do daily are building up. There is a cumulative effect, and it's driving us towards that desired future. Okay, so I hope you find this exercise useful. Please use it for any time, not just doing the exercises that I'm sharing with you. Literally, you can use it every time you don't feel like working out. Every time, you're skipping on things that would serve you, but you're feeling a little lazy. Just think of what would happen if you didn't do this work in a year's time, and what would happen if you did this work in a year's time. You can also reverse it and use it for you. So I hope you like it. Let me know how you find this exercise. Okay, so yes, let's dive into today's topic, which is connecting the dots or bridging the gap between the self-audit that you've just done and the career path it could translate into for you specifically. Up until now, what I hopefully managed to portray and maybe a little bit convince you of is that the traditional world of work operates in a very linear fashion. You look at your past, the experiences that you had, the skills that you developed based off of those experiences, and you use those to decide what kinds of industries and what kinds of roles you'd be accepted into. So you'll hear recruiters often say, based on your skills and your experience, the careers available to you are X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. The trouble with that is that as someone is looking into career change, you're not following the path of the traditional world of work. You're simply not. It's unlikely, very likely from what I've seen, that the logical progression from your current line of work is going to be appealing to you or is even going to bring you any success. If it was, you'd probably be happy and you would not be listening to this podcast. The issue is when we end up spending years keeping up appearances in a career that doesn't really suit us. There's a good chance that we've lost touch with the person and the skill set behind that disguise. And that is the reason why I keep on asking you to do this work. So if there was just one request of you that I had, is when you are going through all of the exercises that I'm sharing with you, please don't use that linear way of structured thinking. Don't dig around in your past. Don't look for a permission slip of what's allowed for you based off of your experiences. Just for now, as you're connecting the dots, practice considering everything as a possibility until you've proven to yourself that it's not. I know it goes against our logic and the training that we've received, but give this a go, as sometimes you simply cannot know where you're being taken. But if you trust the process, it will take you exactly where you need to be. And I have so many real life examples of this. But for now, I'll just share one with you. I love little stories. When I was going through my own sort of reset and soul searching period, I ended up traveling. So that was my way of reconnecting, if you will, with myself. And when I was in Lisbon, I met this English guy. And he was cycling throughout Europe. He got a bicycle, he left England, and he set off literally cycling around Europe. And to be honest, up until this day, he's probably one of the most enigmatic people I have ever met. Like, he had this really long hair, and you never really could tell if he was into women or, men. And he was so elusive and so interesting. And you know how sometimes people walk into your life, they just touch you and you may never even see them again, but you're somehow just forever changed just being in the presence. And I feel like this guy was exactly that for me. So he set out cycling because he was really unhappy in his life. He was working as an engineer. He hated his job. It was not what made him feel fulfilled. He was in a relationship which was on and off, and frankly, from what he told me, sounded quite toxic. So he was just not in a good state. And he set out to travel, just to cycle, without any idea what will happen next. He didn't even have a route for it. Literally, he would come up with a route as he, went along. And then randomly, when he was in Spain, he met someone who gifted him a ukulele. And at first, he didn't really know what to do with it. And then he was like, well, if I'm carrying this around, in my small backpack, I might as well learn how to play it. And he didn't really have any musical background, yet something about this instrument drew him in. When he would talk about ukulele to me, his eyes would light up and I would be like, wow, it was electric. He even told me that usually in life, he was not very good to committing to learning a new skill or a new language. Yet with ukulele, it was this newfound excitement, a newfound almost obsession where he was simply called to play it. And now let me tell you, when I met him, he was just at the beginning of this journey. And I'm not sure if he's ever going to listen to this, but I'm sure he will not be upset with me if I said that he was really awful at it. He was not very good when he started. And I witnessed it because he would lock himself up in the hostel's kitchen where we were staying, where I met him, and he would go at it for hours. He was I would laugh with my new friends there that he was literally raping that poor ukulele. And then after being so persistent and after this daily work, he became better at it. And he would learn new songs, and he even found his voice and started singing, which again, he said he never pictured himself doing because he had a very sort of shy presence. And, just looking at that journey, I shared the space with him for almost a month. It was almost like witnessing some sort of unraveling. It's almost we didn't speak of it much, but I was just so fascinated by this whole experience. And then he left, and I still remember when he was, walking away, cycling away, his long hair was sort of in the wind and his ukulele in the backpack, and I just watched him cycle down this very steep Lisbon street. And the last time I heard of him, apparently he had opened up a guitar store. And obviously he was also selling ukuleles. And he was offering guitar and ukulele lessons, and he was playing in a band. So he was doing 3 things, but they're all connected with self-expression, with music, with creativity. And apparently that was exactly what he was lacking. And all of which, by the way, because he was doing 3 different activities, allowed him to plan his time and also diversify his income, which was great from a business perspective. I always love a good financial plan. But above all, he was the happiest he had ever been in his life. And he also met a partner who he is madly in love with. By the way, this is really funny. I wanted to share that with you. If any of you who are listening are single out there, this is what I see through and through. And it's a little bit of byproduct, I feel like, of rediscovering and starting to embody your authenticity, which is a lot of my clients somehow end up attracting beautiful, in alignment relationships as they do this work. As they start re-steering essentially their career paths and going towards their purpose, they also end up meeting really beautiful, loving souls. Now, I never set out to promise that to them, by the way. Like, it's not... It's not on the sales page, let me tell you that. But seems like just, them embracing the truth allows them to also make space for a partner who would be a good match for the truth and for what they want to create in the world. So, if you're after a relationship, wink, wink, maybe this is something you need to consider. Perhaps instead of trying to get into a relationship, you just need to direct all your energy towards reclaiming your path, and the relationship will naturally stream into your life. What is that saying? Love finds you when you least expect it, or something like that. Maybe there's truth to that. So when I look at the story with the English guy, the lesson here is that when he set out on his journey, he allowed himself to travel without any expectation, and he simply followed his intuition and his curiosity and his flow. Remember, we spoke about flow in the last episode? That was his zone of genius. That's where flow was born for him. He would spend hours with that poor little ukulele in the kitchen. And this is exactly what we're doing with you here right now. You don't need to cycle around Europe to do this work. You can do this at the convenience of your home, and I'm going to guide you through it. So now that you have a complete list of all your unique strengths, of your core values and your interests, or your core zone of genius, your list of bliss, like I said, I use all these terms interchangeably, what we do is put all these 3 puzzle pieces together and get a pretty well-rounded snapshot of who and what your essence is about today. I would also advise you to put all of these 3 pieces into one list and read them through a couple of times. I essentially want you to have all of these different strengths, values, and interests in one organized document, because you're going to need this for the future, and I'll explain how you will be using that. So read a couple of times all of these things, and sometimes just reading it may have you think of a few possible career opportunities, and those opportunities emerge pretty instantly. Like, you'll just get an idea, as long as you don't kill it instantly, okay? So don't kill it. If something comes up, note it down. And these are usually going to be careers that feed your interests, that allow you to meet your values, and allow you to utilize your unique strengths. The more of these items from the list that this potential path can meet, the more energized and the more fulfilled in this career you will feel. Now, if nothing pops up, please don't fret. I then want you to go back to your dream career folder. Remember, we were talking about this in episode 3, where I asked you to start putting together a dream career folder. Now, take all of these dream careers you have in there and see which one of them could potentially tick the most of the boxes for you. So essentially what you're looking for is the best match. It's a bit like, say, a dating app, which matches people based on their compatibility in their preferences and the lifestyles, belief systems, future plans, so on and so forth. So imagine those 3 puzzle pieces in a list as a set of criteria you want your ideal career to meet. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that union that would feel fulfilling for you. And you want to tick off as many as you can. The more you tick off, the more potential path is in alignment with you, with your core essence, with your truth. Now, let me give you an example, as I know that sometimes it helps people to understand the process better. This is an example, by the way, based off of one of my clients. So, for instance, in your dream career folder, the 2 most viable options that you found for you are interior designer and a photographer. So say these are sort of the dream careers that for you found yourself that are catching your eye, that you're reading about them, that you're following people who are successful in these paths. So let's take those as 2 options for you to analyze. Then what you do is you take your list and you see in there that your strengths are that you are, say, very visual, that you're good with, selecting colors. You love putting outfits together. You love decorating. You love just in general creating visual spaces. And you're also naturally good at analytical work. You're practical. You have amazing organizational skills. And you are also, what people told you, a very good communicator, like you're empathic communicator, and you find it very easy to hear what people are telling you or what they're not telling you, and you're very good at not projecting your inner content onto them, so you can clearly understand their point of view. So these could be your unique strengths. Now, your values may be, for instance, service. You love to help and especially make people feel good. You value variety. That means that you constantly need to be challenged. You need to have different tasks. You love to be involved in different projects. You like movement in general throughout the course of your life and throughout the course of your day. And maybe your value is also creativity. You think that everything around you is a piece of art, and you simply just believe and you stand for creativity, right? And then you look at your passions and your interests. So these could be, for instance, creating color boards, going on Pinterest and looking for interesting visual solutions or spatial solutions, right? How to use the space that you have the best. You love DIY projects. You have been redecorating your flat a million of times. You've been changing the colors of the wall, changing the furniture, so on and so forth. And when you're traveling, you realize that through this, introspection work, you realize that the best part about traveling for you is actually staying in a hotel. And you especially love those boutique hotels, and you love getting into the space, and you spend time inspecting it and taking pictures of the rooms and the colors and the palettes and the little details that you see. That excites you. That gives you energy, right? So now let's go back to your 2 potential paths. The first one was interior design. So let's see how many boxes we can check off, or in other words, how many inner core criteria this career path could meet for you. So let's see at your strengths. Visual, check. You need to be visual to be a good interior design. You need to be into colors and be able to color coordinate, check. You need to be able to probably have a bit of a knack for decorating and creating visual spaces and solutions, check. You also need to be analytical and practical, because there's a little bit of that involved into creating spaces and making them practical. Check that your skill. Obviously, you need to be good at organizing and putting things together. Check. People are complimenting on your organizational skills, right? So that's double check for you. You need to be a very good communicator, because when you are coming into someone's space, to a client's space, and you're trying to create a space for them, you need to be able to hear what your client needs and create a space for them versus what perhaps you would like. Check. That's your strength. People tell you that you're good at that, right? So you got quite a few checks here just looking at your unique strengths. Now let's look at your values. So you said that you value being of service and making people feel good. Isn't that the essence of what interior designers do? Check. You love variety? Definitely check. You'll get a lot of variety working on different projects. Creativity, movement, check, right? Then we look at your interests or your core zone of genius. So you mentioned color board, definitely check. Pinterest for visual solutions, check. You're into that. You would probably need to do quite a lot of thinking yourself if you're working with your clients' projects. You love the DIY stuff, check. You need to be creative and resourceful. You love redecorating, major check. That's a good sign that you actually do it in your free time and no one pays you, and probably your boyfriend or your husband is annoyed with you, but you still do that. That's something you cannot not do. Major check. And then you tell me that you go traveling and versus enjoying, new cultures, you spent a fair bit amount in a hotel analyzing the way it's built, right? And you love all those details. Come on out, check, right? So as you can see, the potentiality of an interior design path looks like a pretty fantastic match when we compare it against your strengths, your values, and your interests, right? It got a lot of checks. Now, this might be a career you never even thought of. Like my client was an office clerk. Like she never even considered this path. But when we started doing the work, like doors started open up and she was like energizing and feeling more and more excited with every session because it just like lit her up. Now, we also had the second option, photography. For her, it checked a lot of her strengths as well, right? Photographer, being visual, loving to play with color, putting outfits together, being a good communicator. You need that when you're a good, especially when you are taking pictures of people. Making people feel good. There is a lot of variety, creativity, and, it met a lot of her interests as well. However, it did not check off as many boxes as interior design. Yet it still definitely was something that she enjoys doing, right? And she gets some fulfillment from. So in this situation, if you were my client, and what we ended up doing with her is we would then launch into a play and test phase. And by testing out our little play projects, we would then decide whether, she needed to incorporate the two together. And she ended up doing that, by the way. She went into interior and architecture photography. And that was we followed this process, which allowed us to essentially crystallize what would work the best for her. And she decided that she was not really into headshots because she didn't feel like she had a lot of control of people, but she was really into like taking pictures and playing with the light in interior designs. And after she shadowed a few interior designers, she realized that she could not deal with certain aspects of being an interior design. That's why really putting yourself in the proximity of potential career path is vital. And after all this trial and error and testing out, she, like I said, went into interior architecture photography. And for some people, it may look different. For some people, it may look like going into interior design full-time and leaving photography as a very beautiful, nourishing hobby. There's nothing wrong with that. So what does this matching process look like for you? I really invite you to be curious. I want you to dream big, to drop all the reservations. If all was possible, what would you do? And perhaps this week, looking at the list, nothing may come up for you. But you will now become super open to receiving and noticing potential ideas. So for instance, another of my clients, she decided that she wanted to spend some time exploring in the States. She didn't want to rush through that. And she made it into a very pleasurable morning practice for her. So she'd wake up early before her family did when they were still asleep, and she'd make herself some coffee and she'd read the newspapers. And she has this thing for newspapers. Does anyone still need to read newspapers? I don't know. But for some reason, it just gave her comfort. Maybe it reminded her of her childhood. I'm not sure, actually. I never asked her. But those local newspapers, they have the craziest stories sometimes. Like the craziest stuff. Maybe partly because they don't have a lot to report. So they're out there seeking for the most random stories. And, it would be like interviews with local businesses or their success stories. And she would literally come to the session with me with her dream career folder And she would have cutouts from that newspaper, and we would go through it together and analyze against her checklist, right? So how many boxes this potential path could tick for her. And that created a spark for her until, she landed a few very viable options, which she then went out and tested. So, it may not be a newspaper for you, but please stay open. It could even come to you in a song, in a book, in some recommendations and excerpts of dialogues that you randomly hear. I want you to look for opportunities to find out about things you've never heard of before. Follow your curiosity about the topics, about the causes, about ideas. So many new things are being born. Broaden your worldview wherever you can. Be open to that and set the intention to find it. Because if you define what you do next by what you've always done, like I said, you'll get what you've always got. Simple as that. And just like you probably discovered in your future self exercise that I shared with you at the beginning, you probably don't want to do that. And whenever you will now be finding that potential career path that excites you, take out your now secret new weapon, which is your list of strengths, values, interests, and see how many of them would be met by this path. See how many you can tick off. And sometimes people may even get a complete match. So having this list, like I said, is your superpower, and it's something that can help out and take you out of the analysis paralysis stage. And once you find a pretty decent match, you get to move to the testing phase. And there's only so much we can figure out by thinking. A lot of the feedback will be received from experiencing and trying. And all of that I will definitely cover in my future episodes. So I'm going to walk you through that as well. And the final word of caution I have here for you. For some of you listening to what I'm sharing, may feel a bit like child's play. Especially for those of you who are in the corporate. And I'm laughing because I hear you. Okay. If you had given all of this work to me a decade ago, I would tell you, excuse me, you crazy coach lady. I have no time for these infantile exercises. Okay. Just tell me what my next move is. Or if you can't tell me, I will find someone else who will. Literally. Not in that tone, but I would not have said it out loud, but I would definitely be thinking that. And here's the catch. No one else can tell you. Not even those closest to you. Because it takes some loving and patient unraveling to reconnect to that juicy, authentic core of yours. And this quote unquote child play is what I've seen to work the best. Because the irony is here that these seemingly intangible, woo-woo kind of methods to inquire and plan your life are actually the most practical and the most sustainable way to plan your future. Because changes based off of this work will be long-lasting. And then you can say goodbye to your career change ADHD and running around hoping you find answers by sporadically trying, things that you sporadically randomly find, or maybe expecting others to give you answers, or maybe beating yourself up for not having it figured out by now and then just being stuck in this perpetual loop. Now I'm aware this type of work may not be something we're used to doing, not something they taught us to do, and yet it's never too late to start rewriting your story. So don't look at the past as a predictive measure of what's possible for you in the future. Past is in the past for a reason and truly is quite irrelevant for you right now. You're here and you can and you will create a life you won't need a vacation from. So cheesy. Listen, but it's true, I swear to God. I don't recall when I've been on vacation last. Okay, I do. And you may think it's so sad. It's not, because I swear to God, every day is like a vacation for me. / a work day / a celebration / magic. Is it always easy? No. But I'm having so much fun. I'm not tired. I'm constantly re-energized because the career path I've chosen ticks off pretty much all of the items on my list. So will you come and join me, please? Please? Okay, be good this week and don't forget to share with me what you discover. I really want to know, okay? Speak to you next Monday. Bye. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you enjoy listening to this podcast and you'd like me to support you in your career change journey, that is, take all the guesswork out, help you navigate the turbulent career change waters, and successfully transition in your career, you can apply to work with me one-on-one. I will be opening up a few coaching slots shortly. So if you'd like the opportunity, please visit my website, www.vilmosate.com/apply. That is vilmausaite.com/apply. Let's make 2021 your year of transitions.